Hey, this is Alex, and welcome back to another Predator video. That's right, these guys do numbers, so we gotta capitalize while we can. And this time, we're going for a more simple build that ended up way different than what I was originally going for. And honestly, I'm glad it did, because I'm loving the final design. So, if you would suspend your disbelief for 10 minutes, get started on this Aztec Predator turned refugee. Okay, so starting off with the base, we're going to be using a fugitive predator figure that came out a while back. I stripped this guy for parts years back, so he's kind of just been hanging around ever since. And the big idea here was to go for an Aztec inspired predator. An idea that I have been floating around in my head since the first Predator video. And unfortunately, I had the paperwork to prove it. Disregarding the crust, this was my golden idea, which, as you can already tell, isn't gonna work out. But again, suspend your disbelief and carry on. Now, we're gonna be scavenging most of it from other predators, since I'm trying to use up as many old pieces as I can. It's all about upcycling on this channel. So this guy is gonna be more of a kit bash than an independent build. I'll also be honest, I didn't really have many good looking pieces as far as Aztec aesthetics go, but what really had me going was this armor back piece from the Elder Predator, which ironically made for a pretty unique looking mask, which immediately reminded me of a shaman or an Aztec headpiece. So for now, that's what we're going for. Now, to get the headpiece looking like it actually should, I couldn't find the bird that small, so instead, we're going for a more vegan friendly option. We're going to gather some spiky trimmings from this palm tree. They're a bit oversized, so we're going to be cutting them into shape, which I painstakingly did for about an hour, just cutting 2 cm long strips that we're ultimately not going to use. And after spending another 15 minutes attaching them, I made the realization that it looked like utter dog shit. It was giving out tribal where I was going for Aztec. So I figured the best thing to do is to move on and come back later. So for now, we're going down to the shoulders, where I wanted to have some organic armor in the form of a Xenomorph head. I'm going to be using an old alien trophy, which is going to be trimmed down and hollowed out using our Dremel, which should make it fit nice and snug. I finished the shoulder off by hand shaving it down, which gave us a clean looking skull. So clean in fact that I instantly knew we had more than just a pad. So I slapped that sucker on his face, and what do you know? It's gold. I love gold! But taking a step back to the shoulder/arms, since we're gonna go for a bony aesthetic, the plan is to attach this long spine piece from the Elder Predator's bone weapon, which should give us a nice looking arm piece while also keeping the mobility. Sticking with the arms, I was gonna go for an armless forearm, but I realized that the sterile armor is a great contrast to the bony upper half. So we're definitely keeping those along with its original blades. Now, that doesn't mean we can't make it look even more kick-ass. That's right, we're adding wrist rockets. Or in this case, wrist caster? I don't know. I can't for the life of me remember which predator this caster came from, so leave a comment if you recognize it, and while I'm at it, make sure you subscribe and like, yeah. But yeah, the caster, I just know it was adorably tiny and perfectly scaled to fit the wrist. Now, attaching it is a whole nother story, which starts by cutting a groove into the caster's base, which should hopefully help us with keeping things straight. To make it removable, we're going to be adding a swivel joint using a small piece of wire. Now, using our Ghetto Vic slider, we're going to use the power of conduction to melt right into the heart of the caster. And of course, we do the same for the wrist, but instead of pulling out the wire, we cut it, leaving us a little stump, which is going to be our connection point. Moving down to the crotch, I was still trying to keep the Aztec aesthetic, so we're gonna need to cover up his cock.
Alright, we don't need your cock.
This is a Christian channel after all. Thankfully, I have a second skirt piece, so we're gonna Frankenstein both of them together to hopefully cover up his no-no square. And by cutting out the middle and off-centering it down, we get a longer loincloth similar to ancient Egypt, or might I even say, Aztec? So we glue the pieces into place and do a test fit. And it turns out it's a little wonky and doesn't cover up the joint. So first things first, we deepen the jerk hole on the legs, which makes the torso fit a lot more flush. After which, it's time to resize the belt. To do that, I just have to cut out a sliver from the butt piece and glue it back, making things a bit tighter. I did go over it with a lighter to melt things together, which kinda worked, but don't quote me. From there, I reattached the butt skirt to make it sit flat with his butt, finishing off our new and improved Predator loincloth, now with added cock covers. So we test fit it one more time, and sure enough, it's utterly perfect. Okay, it does make the Predator look all caked up, but that's an easy fix.
Fucking caked up.
From there, we can move on to accessories. Our boy here is gonna be getting 2 axes, which we're gonna be scavenging from, you guessed it, the Elder Predator. More specifically, from the jawbone that makes the spear's end. Unfortunately, they're kinda sculpted together, so using our X-Acto knife and the utmost patience, we begin to slowly cut them apart, making sure not to cut ourselves. We end up with 2 axe handles, one slightly bigger than the other, and move on to the blades, which ironically ended up with me stabbing my finger. Nothing like a blood sacrifice for a good harvest, especially in October. As for the blade, I trimmed down the sword piece until it looked somewhat like an axe, followed by drumming a groove into the jawbone, just big enough for a blade to fit. So we add a dab of glue, followed by our makeshift blade. I did the same thing with the smaller jawbone, which ended up looking more like a tomahawk than a full axe. But with our weapons done, we're pretty much ready to put this guy together. Or at least what we can for now. So we're going to mix up some black epoxy and glue down our armor, starting off with the spine, which is now on his opposite arm, don't ask. Replacing the spine, we're going to add a smaller arm piece, also from the other Predator. Yeah, we're just taking this whole fit. We're also going to be adding this jaw piece, but I don't get that idea till the very end. So yeah, we finish off the torso with a weapon holster across his chest, and move down to painting. That's right, despite my color impairness, we're going to give this guy a repaint. But to start, we're going to have to mask his legs, and unfortunately, I only had electrical tape, so things got kinda kinky. But yeah, I'm keeping the leg armor, which is why we're masking off the legs. I liked it enough, and it goes with the skirt. The skirt which is also getting primed along with the wrist armor and the caster. We take things into our spooky corner, where we prime things using some black primer. Skirt piece turned a little tacky, just like you, but aside from that, we got some good coverage and can start laying down the paint. And as far as paint jobs go, this guy is getting a cool metallic black. We're kinda just basing ourselves off the Serpent Predator, which has a badass black and red color scheme with some metallic undertones. Unfortunately, I don't have any more brushes since I keep wrecking them with my epoxy, and I also lost my metallic paint. So I pretty much shelled out way too much on some detailing brush and some silver paint from Hobby Lobby. But with that secured, we can start off by dry brushing on the silver, making for a dark metal look. We repeat on the other arm and move down to the skirt, which rather than dry brushing the whole thing, we're just gonna make certain parts silver. And after a few coats, it's left looking like this, but it's still not quite done. We're pretty much gonna re-detail the piece to make things pop. That means I'm pretty much just filling in any recessed grooves and outlining the main sculpt. It was a long and tedious process, but definitely worth it in the end. So with that, we move back to the arms, which get some gold detailing to give things some spice.
Nice.
Along with the caster, which gets the same treatment.
My hand.
Moving down to the legs, they're gonna get a mix of silver and gold to better match the skirt and the caster. From there, we just have to add some finishing touches, like some black on the axes to cover up the cuts, a little gold on the skirt to make things match up, and lastly, a black wash and a repaint for our special mask. We sealed things off using some flat varnish, and with that we can move on to the final assembly, which is just a matter of popping in the arms, pegging the caster, gluing in the torso with some epoxy, along with the armband, which I told you I was going to use later. We finish off the body with the feet, which after heating up using some water, it's soup, pop right into place. Lastly, I add a peg to the mask, which should make it removable while also staying in place. It kinda gags them, but it works. But after that, we're absolutely done. So, let's go ahead and take a look at the finished product all put together. Alright, and here's a closer look, starting off with the axis. Our blades, which didn't change much. Now, I was surprised to find out this plasma effect actually fit on my caster. They never do, so I'll take it. Here's a better look at the axe holder, which fits the biggest one best. And lastly, here's a look at the articulation. The spine doesn't really limit his arm. He's pretty much free to move it all the way up. The armor is a little loose, but he's not limited at all on that arm, which is great. Head-wise, he's got your regular rotation. There's no limitation from the mask or anything, aside from the axe. He's got full rotation of his legs, which allows him to do some mean-looking splits. Aside from that, he's also got his double jointed knees and pretty much any of the regular Predator articulation you could come to expect from a NECA figure. But with that, we're done. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Don't forget to feed your pets. They're animals, but they love you. Stay poochy, and I'll catch you on the next one.